Today we'll be looking inside the NRM party as it prepares to retain power in 2026. Well, we know all political parties are now busy preparing for these particular elections, which are expected to kick off with nominations in October this particular year, and then a campaign period, and then nomination and then, a fielding of candidates in different positions, including parliament, local elections, that's local government elections, and then even the presidency. And different political parties have a different way of preparing in line with their constitutions and the relevant party organs. So today, we want to look at the ruling party, the NRM, which has been in power for over 3 decades, to understand how they're actually planning ahead of these general elections. My guest this evening is the Honorable Emmanuel Lumala Dombo. He's the Director of Information at the NRM Party Secretariat. Good evening, Honorable Dombo. Thank you for honoring us with your presence today.
Thank you very much, and good evening, our listeners, and good evening, the management of Kavozi, Radio 1, and all our listeners. It has been a while since I was here. May I also say Happy New Year to everybody, and my condolences to those who have lost dear ones, most especially and most recently to the family of the late Honorable Badiri, former Oman MP of Ukoboko, Honorable Besisira, former Member of Parliament for Buyaga East, and then the Honorable Muhammad Segirinya, the former Member of Parliament for Kawempe North, who was recently buried in very dramatic ways, but could be that will be a topic for another date. But allow me to send my condolences to the widows, the children, and the mother, and the entire constituency upon the demise of their child, husband, brother, son, leader, and may God give his soul eternal peace. Our brothers, the Muslims, say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that we all came from Allah, and back unto him we shall return.
All right. May their souls indeed rest in eternal peace, and may God strengthen the bereaved. Your political party, the NRM, has been in power for quite some time, over 3 decades. By the end of this tenure, you will be 40 years in power?
We shall be celebrating 39 years, I think, this on January 26th. And we are going to have the celebrations in Mubende for the first time, I think, since the liberation. And you know that in the Mubende district, that is where the first bullet was shot. And we are going to tell them and thank the people of Mubende, the people of Uganda, to say the revolution which was launched then, what has come out is what Uganda is now today. We have had our own challenges, but Uganda has moved on. There is no single organization in Uganda or in Uganda's history that has been able to retain and sustain power for over 3 decades like the NRM has done. The question you may want to go to the people and ask, or ask the leaders of NRM, Muchikola Mutia, how have you been able to do it? This is why NRM will continue remaining a formidable organization, because amongst all challenges, the leadership stays sober and stays focused on the mission of transformation of the people of Uganda from backwardness to prosperity.
All right. 2026 general elections are coming up. Your supporters out there would like to know, how is the party preparing for these particular elections? What are you doing and where are you now? We've had political parties have roadmaps, activities that they're supposed to conduct, and to prepare them for that particular journey. How has it been in the NRM as you arrange for these elections?
Kenneth, have you ever won an election or participated in one as a candidate?
Yes, I have.
to everybody who has participated in an election and won and intends to defend that position in subsequent elections, your next elections begin on the day you are elected. Therefore, for us, preparation for the next elections started on the day NRM won the elections and President Museveni took an oath. Because in the oath, there are things that are implied, there are things that are deliberate and specific, as mentioned in the manifesto, and there are things that the population and the country expect of us. The way we win the election and the way we treat the voters. To me, who was in parliament for 20 years, I want to tell you that the day you win an election and people come home to celebrate, and they leave home without eating food, or without you handling them properly, or without you handling the campaign agents, or even the opponents who may want to cross and come back to you if you mishandle them because you won them, then you may get problems in subsequent elections. Because, for instance, myself, I won in the 1996 elections with a minority. The people who didn't vote for me were more than those who voted for me in 1996. So it was a huge risk that there was a possibility, should one candidate emerge in future, that and all those people who didn't vote for you ganged up against you, you get a challenge. So everybody who is an incumbent has a responsibility, one, to fulfill the promises that you have made to the people, but also to give hope to the people of the country by explaining where you may have failed. These elections were, the previous elections were conducted at a time of COVID, the COVID pandemic, and the people of Uganda did not enjoy normal campaigns like you have been used to. We have many of our senior leaders, both in the opposition and government, who died. We have many senior people, religious and social people and cultural leaders who died during that time. And coming out of the elections and the pandemic, there are so many things that were not done. For instance, in the national resistance movement, we only had elections for the national offices of national chairman, the members of the Central Executive Committee, the vice chairperson, the regional vice chairperson, and all the other office bearers had their offices renewed by statutory instruments because of the current situation that we are in. Right now, it is incumbent upon us as a party to ensure that the democracy we talk about and the people of Uganda yearn for, that we must give it to Ugandans, but starting with the NRM party. Therefore, in order to do what we are expected, you see this one here, which I'm holding, is the Electoral Commission roadmap for the Independent Electoral Commission. Just from the date it was issued until the 12th, until the 9th February 2026, when the electoral cycle is expected to be ending. Now, in order for us to comply with the Independent Electoral Commission roadmap, we had internally to draw our roadmap to conform to this exactly, with progressive modifications whenever it becomes necessary. And in order to give it legitimacy that it requires, we invited the national chairman of NRM to the party headquarters, who came and launched this electoral and political roadmap at the party headquarters. But in order for this roadmap to be implemented, there are certain parameters that must be fulfilled by the party and by the individuals. For instance, when you go to parliament now, we have a number of independents who are more than what we had in the previous parliament. And when you ask most of the independents, their claim is that they have been elected because we failed to deliver on the party register for members. Therefore, because we did not have a register, we did not have credible internal elections to determine who
party primaries,
our party primaries, who our flag bearers were. We even wanted to institute disciplinary issues in the party in order to hold those liable because of in accordance with the NRM constitution. But we were guided by the national chairman to say, let us put our internal systems first, right first. He said, forcing people to do the right thing, it should be the internal systems and the law. Once those ones are right, then you can force somebody. But right now, asking somebody who contests as an independent or telling them to leave the party, if you do it, choose to do so like the constitution says, when we did not have a credible register, then would have been violating the human rights of individuals and therefore weakening NRM as a party. So, what we have done especially for the whole of last year, we embarked on the process of registering members into the NRM hard copy using manual exercise.
Manual?
Yes, we did manual registration. We sent registrars in every village. They sat to copy and update also the register then by capturing the NINI numbers as given in the national IDs, capturing the identification, capturing the name, the age of the person, the residential area, the NIN, and then the telephone number. We believe that this will be comprehensive data for us once the register is fully constituted.
So as we speak now, you do not have a fully constituted register?
No, as we speak now, we have finished. We did the registration and finished. And towards the end of last year, we did the digitization. We captured all data into digital form, and now we have a digital register. If you asked us now to go and conduct an election, 98% would deliver a very credible election.
All right.
But one of the things we discovered in the process is that there are students who are in school when we were doing the registration who do not appear, yet they are members of NRM. We also have a few farmers or herdsmen who had shifted with their animals. Others had gone to Gulu, others had gone to Luwero, others had shifted in search of pastures and water. They have since complained and said they have gone back to their places, they would want to be captured. But also we have people who have died since, or those who have defected to other parties. Now, the Central Executive Committee sitting recently gave a guidance under the directive of the national chairman to say, find resources in order to go and validate this information so that we have a final copy of the register which we are going to use for internal elections of the party, but we shall also use for the internal primary elections, so that perhaps we shall minimize the incidence of independent candidates because of delivering credible results using the credible register that we are constructing. So
coming up with a party register is essential in ensuring that you have credible party primaries.
Absolutely. There is no way you can have credible primaries without a register. And once you have a successful register, I want to tell you everybody will respect the outcome of the elections once they lose and the processes have been followed to the letter.
Are you also changing the format of voting? Because the last time we saw you were voting by lining up. Is it changing?
Our format of voting in NRM is determined by the annual delegates conference. It's a constitutional matter. Right now, we are going to conduct elections in accordance with the NRM constitution as is. So, we are going to conduct elections as prescribed in law by people lining up. And for us, we are getting ready for that to ensure that, by the way, elections by lining up is very good. Because you announce the results on the village, and everybody in the village will know who has gotten what. Even if somebody tampered with the results, that is what helped the president last time when he put up an inquiry in areas where they had cheated. He just sent a team of volunteers to every village, and he assembled leaders to say, here, what did they announce? And because of that information that was constructed, he was able to fix the outcome of the elections. Otherwise, they would have had so many independents, more than what we have now, if the president hadn't done that as the national chairman of the party.
All right, Honorable Dombo, let's look a little bit at your national register. How credible is it? Because I'm looking at the figures here, and you're suggesting that you have about 18 million members.
Yes,
you're almost swallowing up the national voters register, basically to say that all the voters in Uganda belong to the NRM.
You know that the National Resistance Movement is...
I'm sure you've heard people have complained about that figure.
The NRM is a mass party. And you know very well that it is only the National Resistance Movement as a party which has the ability to field candidates in every office throughout the country. When we did the first registration, by the way, that number was about 18.7 million. When our computer expert did a computer program which once was introduced into the register, it removed the people with the similar date of birth, similar names, and similar perhaps telephone numbers. There is no way you can have one Dombo Emmanuel Lumala appearing more than once. All those names have been cleaned out, and they are going to be validated during when you go for validation of the registers. They remove the people whose phone numbers have been repeated, people whose names have been repeated and dates of birth, and that's why this number came down to 18 million, 8,000, I think 839, who are now on the register. We believe that when we do the final update, where we shall capture more students who were not there, this number may likely increase a bit, or it may even go down, provided you aren't many errors. If there are a number of errors which are going to be removed because of the validation, then these numbers will get down. But unlike the Independent Electoral Commission register, ours we capture members from the age of 16. So even those people who are 16 and are not yet eligible for being voters are captured in the members register. Now because we put the date at the time of voting, the computer is just going to extract those who have come of age as at that cut-off date, and we shall constitute a voters register which will be used at every polling station.
By the NRM?
By the NRM.
Are you not going to, at any point at the polling station, insist that it should be your register that is used? Because if you're going to use your own party register at the polling station and the EC also has its own version, are we not going to have contention?
Our polling station, unfortunately, is different from the EC's polling station.
Oh, you're talking about your internal elections?
Our internal elections, we shall use the register of the party.
Okay.
And our villages, or polling stations are at villages.
Okay.
Unfortunately, our polling stations are far more than those of the Independent Electoral Commission, because we rely on villages, yet in the Independent Electoral Commission, they merge a number of villages.
You've talked about a validation exercise. What exactly are you going to do with your register?
Right now, all our top leaders...
I thought this booklet was final. I think you've concluded. I thought you had concluded everything.
All our top leaders right now in the party are in a series of printing areas, supervising, sleeping in the printing presses. And even me now, I have my own printing press where I'm going to sleep in order to supervise the exercise, that within 2 days, we must have all the registers of Uganda in the National Resistance Movement printed and ready for dispatch on the dates that the Secretary General is going to announce. When we go to validate, we are going to check the correctness of the name, correctness of the date of birth and age, correctness of the residence, correctness of the NIN and telephone number, but also we are going to look for those who died and those who have since shifted from those villages, or those who have left us as a party, who have defected to other parties. But there are also so many, when you go to many areas in Uganda right now, many people are running from other parties. The exodus in the other parties and people entering NRM, you are going to be surprised.
You're gaining some and losing some.
We have lost a few.
Because I've seen some political parties also welcoming former NRM people.
Yeah, but they welcome one former member of parliament. But for us, when you go to villages, when you go to these numbers, if you looked at the books as captured and the report which you used, the areas were a percentage increase. When you go to areas of Teso, areas of Gulu, areas of Kasese, areas of Buganda here, Central Region, people are coming back after seeing that they have been taken for a ride by other parties. You cannot believe it. But I want to tell you that NRM will shine and keep shining forever until such a time that if people choose to do bad things as leaders, then the people can say no. But as long as we continue doing and delivering on our promises, then NRM will remain a very formidable organization for a very long time. Well,
the Electoral Commission has arranged to have a nomination of candidates starting in October. As a political party, how do you identify your candidates? What are the processes that you're engaged in beyond the register? Do you have cut-off dates? When are people...
You are talking of October for the other candidates, but there are going to be SIG elections, which are going to come earlier than that. Therefore, for us, when we are going to conduct our elections, that's why I had to show you this electoral roadmap for the Independent Electoral Commission. And this is ours. Some of these dates are not yet public. That's why I cannot discuss it openly here on the broadcasting house, even when you can have a look at, for you just basically to understand that this is the way our plan is being structured. But when
why are you hiding details from your supporters?
Because it's not yet
you have NRM people.
Because it has dates that are yet to be approved or to be agreed upon, and when the Central Executive Committee or the top management has not agreed on the final dates, and you come and announce them here, that will be premature. The dates may change, and you mislead the audience. That's why this is basically to prove to you that when you see us working, this report here is public now. It has been given to members of the Central Executive Committee to show the outcome of the digitization exercise, and also to show you that really we are up to the game.
All right.
When you get to Dr. Tango Doi as the chairman of the Electoral Commission, he's getting ready and more ready every time to come back on the exercises as he's supposed to.
How are you going to identify your candidates, Honorable Dombo?
Identification of candidates is through democratic process. First and foremost, we're going to have elections of structures of the party. Our initial proposal, we had wanted to have those elections by the end of this month. It is still an issue which is under debate, but the Central Executive Committee guided that we should have a credible register before we embark on that exercise. Once we have the structural elections, we are going to have structural elections going up from the village. Then we use the outcome of the village to construct another register, which will go in the parish, the sub-county, and the district. And to a later age, we get members who come to the delegates conference. Internally, we are going to have, whenever an office will fall vacant according to the timetable, the Electoral Commission will announce and invite aspirants depending on the regulations that will be adopted, paying some nomination fees, complying with the Electoral Commission, and also ensuring that somebody is a registered voter in the Independent Electoral Commission before you can vie for elections on our side. We must comply for the laws, both the laws of Uganda and the regulations within the party. So we shall identify our candidates by election, and our elections are by universal adult suffrage.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. My guest this evening, the Honorable Emmanuel Lumala Dombo. He's the Director of Communications at the NRM Party Secretariat. We are looking at how the NRM Party is preparing for the next elections, the 2026 general elections. We know nominations will kick off in October, and most political parties are working tirelessly to address some of the issues internally before they can embark on that particular exercise. We're going to go for a break now. When we return, we'll hear more about the democratic processes inside the NRM, because there are some people actually think there's no internal democracy in the NRM, with some positions ring-fenced, but also we are hearing tough exchanges among leaders in some regions who are preparing to vie for internal elections. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90 will continue after this break. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Today, we are looking at how the NRM is preparing for the next 2026 general elections. And my guest this evening is the Honorable Emmanuel Lumala Dombo, who is the Director of Communications at the party's Secretariat. Already we know the NRM has come up with a membership register where they're saying they have 18 million voters, but they're saying they're still going to clean up this register to address a number of issues that could have emerged from the time it was actually, published. They want to be able to prepare properly and ensure that they have credible internal elections, which will be crucial in identifying candidates and helping them to eliminate the phenomenon of having NRM independent leaning candidates. And he is also talking to us about other exercises that are going on internally in the party as they prepare for that particular election. Honorable Dombo, you talked about internal elections and democracy, how you arrive at leaders. Some people have been saying actually within the NRM, there's nothing called internal democracy. A few people here and there fix things left, right, and center, and they happen the way they want things to happen.
Well,
and as sometimes you'll hear the Central Executive Committee intervening and even denying people an opportunity to exercise their mandate to do as they wish.
Democracy, whereas democracy is uniform as a word, the practices of the democracy are totally different. When you go to a number of countries, you get democracies where a vice president heads the parliament. And that's a democracy like in the United States. When you go to the UK, you get a democracy without term limits. When you go to the US, you get a democracy with term limits. So democracies are practiced by various countries in accordance with the legal framework that has been adopted by those countries. For us in Uganda, we have democracies. We have a democracy which complies with the NRM constitution, but also conforms with the constitution of Uganda and other subsidiary legislation, like the Political Party Organizations Act. It complies with the Local Government Elections Act. It also complies with the other related elections. The determination of who the candidate is prescribed in our electoral roadmap and the regulations there too that have been adopted. For instance, when the Central Executive Committee sits, it has powers to vet candidates. That's a provision of the law. So if the Central Executive Committee has powers to do certain things and it does it, then it does it in accordance with the law. We also have the Delegates Conference, which is the supreme organ of the party, which can make resolutions within the party, and those resolutions will be binding. And the Central Executive Committee, for instance, which sat in Chobe, I hadn't joined the Secretariat yet then. They made a resolution and said that President Museveni is the sole candidate for NRM from that time and beyond. That is a resolution, and if the NRM will want to change it, then they will have to vary that resolution by a subsequent resolution competently brought and also supported and approved by the same organ which has been mandated. So it is a democracy.
Doesn't that kind of resolution act as a hindrance to other members who would want to emerge now? Leadership can evolve. Somebody out there might actually be saying, 2026, I want to run. But there's a resolution probably taken by some people whose opinions might have changed even by now.
Some resolutions,
how do you
some issues may be
two?
deterrent when they are passed. Some may be protective in order to galvanize on the achievements that have been made and made over a period of time. And running a country It's not something that you just wake up, even in a bit of a democracy, that you just wake up and because many people have said Jesus akomererwe, and they ask who, those who support, and the others say akomererwe. You might end up making decisions because of democratic decisions, but in a manner which is not properly well thought out. So for us, we combine democracy as prescribed in the regulations, but also strategic thinking and constructive engagement by members of the party and engaging various individuals in order to come up with a well thought idea in the interest of the party, the nation, and also in the interest of the revolution. So those resolutions do exist. If there is anybody who thinks that they are unfair, we have a constitutional mechanism which people are very free either to go to courts of law or to petition to other organs of the party, because the Central Executive Committee is not the supreme organ of the party. If somebody chooses not to, and he thinks the Central Executive Committee erred, he can appeal to the higher organs of the party, and the decision will be made.
All right. One other key issue that people normally talk about when it comes to elections and the NRM is the issue of funding, the funds that you use as a political party. You spend a lot. I do not have the figures right now, but there's an organization called ACFIM, which did an analysis of how much political parties actually spend. And it's billions, you know. Where do you get this money, Honorable Dombo, as a political party?
First and foremost, by the way, to me, let me be grateful on behalf of the other parties to His Excellency the President, who in his wisdom counseled the members of IPOD to say that going forward, in order to prevent these other people with the bad manners funding our political parties in return for favors when the decisions are being made, but also to make Ugandans and the individuals in Uganda look independent, he took a decision and said, let government fund political parties. Actually, according to the position of the president, he had not even thought that the religious institutions must be funded by government, those in Uganda. That at one time we had intimated to say because of we are just empowering the people to come out of poverty. When you look at the contributions and the tithe they give in the churches is not enough to run these activities. But because of the multiplicity of the religious institutions, I think it became difficult for him, and he opted to say he will support religious institutions as and when he chooses to do so. So, political parties receive a lot of money from government. Political parties share 35 billion every year. And one time you bring here the other members from other political parties and ask them how much money they receive themselves. But for us in the National Resistance Movement, we receive every quarter we receive about 8-point-something billion.
There's that formula that they use to actually share out this money to political parties, and most of the opposition political parties are actually aggrieved.
Well, let them deal with the law, because if they are sharing in conformity with the law, then they should come up and say if the law must be modified. But also, they should go back and campaign to ensure that they have a good numerical strength. Because like when you look at the UPC in the recent by-elections, they grabbed the two constituencies from NRM. And this was good resources that shifted from the National Resistance Movement, according to the share of the cake of the political parties, going to the Uganda People's Congress.
Is that so?
Yeah, because we lost Oyam North, and we also lost Oyam. I think we lost Oyam, and we recently lost Kisoro. Now, because of that,
each time you lose a seat, your share of the iPod money reduces.
Absolutely, because you share it according to the numerical strength. So, because of those losses, it partially affects the way you share resources. But also, the members of parliament, for us, the members of parliament contribute a lot of money. I'll not go into the details of how much, but every month, every month, members of parliament contribute, and including the president, from his salary, people who are occupying elective offices, they are contributing substantial amounts of money, which is helping us to run the elections. But also, because of the regulations that are passed, in order to guide on how much money will be paid by people aspiring for certain offices, in the previous elections, we almost collected towards the tune of 20 billion shillings. That was collected for by aspirants
from internal exercises.
Internal exercises. So this, in addition to what we get from government, is substantial resources. But also, we also have a few people who usually help us, because last time we had
few people?
We had some donors who gave us, somebody who gave us bicycles, which we gave to the chairpersons of NRM. The chairman also, the law allows that you, from time to time, you can make some pleas. And when that happens in conformity with the law, the president files the report to where he's supposed to file it. And that is how we have been running, and really that's how we have been able to construct this register.
All right. Do you think we should regulate how much money a political party should use in an election process? There's that debate going on. What's the position of the NRM on that?
What is true is that the use of money in elections has been vulgarized and has been abused. In 1995, when I first contested for member of parliament and I went to the population, I was a young man of about 35 years, and the job I was doing, I couldn't afford enough money to compete if it was using money. But because we had the joint campaigns by the candidates, and the population was listening to the ideas, I was able to beat many people who had more money than I had. But subsequently, as we have gotten over elections, some people who have had money, at times ill-gotten, have come and abused the democratic process, exploiting the vulnerable situations of the many voters who either don't have money, have been affected by certain problems, and the money can become a solution. You know, here in Uganda, they say Chirema Sente, Owenkata Tazinga. So that money is almost the game plan for everything. Others even use money to compromise security personnel who have been put in to manage elections. Others use money to compromise the election officials themselves. These are complaints that have come up validly in the various reports about either internal or the main elections. That's why people have gotten into elections, election petition in courts. And the others have been, all courts have been able to overturn the elections because of the evidence that has been adduced. So, it is true that earlier we regulated the use of money, the better for the defense of the democratic processes of our country, in order for us to get the credible leaders that we need as a country, and those who may not sell Uganda as a country.
All right. We have comments coming in from the listeners, and I would love to read them out so that you can respond to them. But one particular question, Honorable Dombo, some people have argued that one of the reasons NRM easily sails through in elections at different levels is because there is no, difference between the NRM, a political party, and the government itself. There's a fusion. So you leverage state resources to actually conduct your political activities, and that gives you an edge over the other competitors.
It is not only done in Uganda, it is done everywhere where there is an incumbent who has won. The effect of winning an election is authorization to use taxpayers' money to fund a political party's roadmap or manifesto. Because the manifesto that was written, it was written on a plotted chart on the road. That we shall do this, we shall do this. The question is, where will you get the money? we shall collect the taxpayers' money if we go through. So, because we are an incumbent party, it gives us that strong advantage, but also it gives a temptation to people to abuse it. But because NRM has been doing well, and subsequently people appreciating what it's doing, so we take advantage of that. This is an advantage taken by all members of parliament or elected leaders who are occupying positions. If they know how to use their incumbency and exploiting the positions that they occupy, not manipulating the population, this is something that is legitimate and cannot be complained about. Because when you have the president of Uganda, who is also a candidate and who is also responsible for maintaining peace in the country, and he must implement a manifesto which he wrote privately as a political party, but funding it using resources that he mobilizes from the people of Uganda in accordance with the law. That is the advantage of incumbency, and I don't think any credible person should complain about it, because that is how states are run worldwide.
Okello Patrick Bonyo listening in from Busega Rising says NRM should lead by example by organizing a credible primary internal election. What mechanisms are in place to minimize the independent candidates popping up after the primary? The independence weakens political parties. Can't we put a law against independent candidates? I suggest that the second runner-up of presidential election should have a seat in parliament automatically because he or she represents a big constituency. That's one point there from Okello Patrick Bonyo. Secondly, Drani Raisina says everyone knows there is nothing like democracy in Uganda and NRMO. All we know, it's a group of violent, greedy, and corrupt individuals headed by violent, bloodthirsty leader preparing themselves to kill innocent Ugandans in the exercise of their constitutional rights. Shame my motherland. Shame upon my motherland. That's a point there made by Drani. Then we have another comment here from another listener. Unfortunately, he didn't leave a name behind, who is talking about your comment that you will be celebrating from Mwende, and he is not happy about how you're glorifying the gun that brought you into power, and he says you are still happy about the gun, and his question is the gun killing stopping in Uganda? He still suggests that the gun that you used to come to power is still being used to kill Ugandans. Your quick response to some of these comments, and then we'll take another round.
You know, somebody says the second runner-up should come to parliament automatically if they pass a law. This is something that should have been negotiated.
It's an aspect of electoral reform.
Because it's not an electoral reform that you just push by. You know, in statecraft and governance, you must get involved in constructive engagement, and you must know when to give and when to receive, because this is how states are run worldwide.
I thought you do this for the good of the country.
Yeah, the good of the country must be negotiated. It may be good for the one who comes in, but it may not be good for the one who has been in, and especially if your intention of coming in is to destabilize. So it depends on the reasons that you give for the amendment or modification in the law in order to do that. Then this one who says, is it Drani, who says that shame upon my country, that is his view. I want to tell him that
your party is full of bloodthirsty leaders.
2 years ago, 2 terms ago, the FDC was the leader of the opposition in the country. They were not defeated by NRM in that position, in the leader of the opposition. It is a new young party, the National Unity Platform, which came up and emerged and defeated the FDC. And the same electoral commission, which they accuse of declaring wrong results and saying that they pass NRM people, it is the same electoral commission which has been announcing these people in the opposition. So have they been using wrong results when they announced in the National Unity Platform for it to emerge as the leading the opposition and winning many constituencies from the other people, including our members of parliament? The NRM, we lost a whole vice president lost an election. Here in Buganda, very many ministers were swept out. And the Independent Electoral Commission declared the results. So people want to argue like this. Like other countries in the United States, it seems it is a habit that whoever loses elections must have a reason to justify to either his or her funders as to why he or she may have lost the elections. But for us, we have electoral laws, we have electoral supervisors who have been supervising and declaring the same people in the opposition as people who have won, winning over our people in the national resistance movement. So let them just be strong and go and participate, and then let us wait for the outcome from Justice Bakama and his electoral commission, and then the world will be here to discuss what exactly is happening. But if there are any proposed electoral reforms that can improve upon the status quo, that is upon Parliament and those who have been put in charge.
You as the NRM, are you interested in electoral reforms? Do you think there's need for electoral reforms before the next election?
People have been talking about a number of electoral reforms now or the future, because it depends on when those in charge, whether we have ample time for the electoral reforms to be conducted and whether we have enough resources for the electoral reforms to be conducted. There have been propositions in the past when I was in Parliament. There has also been an attempt to create the Constitutional Review Commission, and some names had been proposed, although they weren't eventually sworn in. So all these attempts can only be successful if the politicians and other stakeholders in the exercise come together in the interest of the party and begin discussing on how best Uganda should be governed, and what are the interests that we are defending in the way we do things. We must begin by respecting one another, looking at one another with the humility and the respect that God envisaged when he created the human being in his image. Once we do that, then we shall ourselves earn respect from the others, and we shall de-escalate in order to begin talking about things that govern us or that concern us in a democratic way. But if we continue behaving like you saw our brothers and sisters behaving when they went to send off my brother, Honorable Segirinya, then you must know that we still have a bigger problem. Because if people cannot just agree on how a brother or sister can be sent off, if people can humiliate a mother who has lost a son by running away with the body of the son at a time when the family is bereaving, then you know that the gods must be crazy. These are things that we, common sense, should have told people that this is not the way civilized people behave. So, if at a funeral we must behave like this, then you know that we still have a lot that we must do as a country. I will encourage my brothers in Parliament that as they are interested in talking for themselves. Do you know what is interesting? Let me tell you, Kenneth. The other day I was talking to a member of Parliament. Members of Parliament who themselves, when they fall sick, receive money from government to go for healing and the medical examination abroad of country, they were blaming and asking that how should Segirinya, who was incarcerated by government, be the same government again honoring him, when they themselves are receiving the same honors from the same government. The members of the National Unity Platform, including the leader of the opposition, even to go and visit Segirinya in the hospital in Nairobi, he had to get money to be transported by government.
Taxpayers' money.
Yes, taxpayers' money. That's what I'm saying. Just Nairobi here.
Is taxpayers' money from the
yeah,
government?
The taxpayers' money. He could have picked money from pocket change from the pocket. But you saw what happened even on the voucher that he received the money. So there are people who would want to come and pretend in order to pretend that they are more holier than others. But may I just appeal to them that we have all sinned and fell short of the glory of God. When your brother has sinned and fallen short,
all right,
don't think that you are any better because or you are saintly just because you are making a political argument.
All right. With that, we come to the end of Spectrum. Let me thank you, Honorable Emmanuel Lumala-Dombo, for sparing time to come and update the country on how the NRM is preparing for the next elections. Thank you very much, dear listeners, for tuning in, but also contributing your views via the WhatsApp line. Up next, we have the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, we'll have the Soul Train with Bibi Jr., but tomorrow, same time, another topic will be on air. Until then, it's a good night.